welcome back to another episode of Your Dose, the podcast which shares stories of lived experiences to help people feel less alone and more connected. This week I am joined by someone who needs absolutely no introduction. It's the one and only Jemma Sbeg, the host of the Psychology of Your 20s podcast. Gemma's voice has been in my ears, and I'm sure so many other 20-something-year-olds for years, guiding me through all the chaos that comes with this weird yet wonderful decade of life. In this episode, we dive deep into what it really means to be in your 20s, the situationships that leave us confused, the friendships we outgrow, and the ones we fight to keep, the messy middle of figuring out who we are and what it's like to live in Australia. It's real, it's relatable, and it's a conversation I know so many of you will resonate with. Thank you so much for being here, and let's get into it. Hi Gemma, welcome to the Your Dose podcast.
I'm so excited to be here.
I can't actually believe this is real. I actually need to just pinch myself. I can't believe you're here. It's just crazy.
It's crazy to me. Do you want to tell the story of how this happened? Because
Yes.
It's wild.
So I have been listening to you for around 3 years. And when I tell you that you have been a podcaster that I've listened to get through some of my biggest moments, including moving to Australia. Like, it was your podcast that I listened to. I significantly remember I was on the Stairmaster in London and I was listening to your podcast and you were talking about taking risks in your 20s, and I was like, I need to do it. It was I don't know what it was about the podcast, and I went home and I booked my flight. I'm genuinely...
Oh my God, I just got chills like all up my body.
Like, genuinely, that is so true.
God.
Yeah, and you got me through a situationship, so many different things. So anyway, I actually reached out to Gemma a few times on email. Obviously, you're huge. Like, I wasn't expecting a response. And this one particular day, I went to a nail salon that I would never go to.
Yeah, so out of your way, right?
So out of my way in Australia and, well, Sydney. And Gemma walks in.
From the gym.
I sat there and I thought, this can't actually be real. But I need to speak to you. Like, this moment might never happen again.
It was amazing.
And then I went, hi, Gemma. And you were, I love you or something. I love you.
No, you just were like, hi. And I remember being like, do I know this person? Because I was like, I've forgotten who this is, because it just felt so familiar. And I was like, oh no, this is so embarrassing.
You think you went, do I know you? And I was like, not in a, that you went that approach.
Yeah, no.
Like, you were like,
Who are you?
Do I know you? And I was like, not really, no, but I know you.
And then we ended up talking the entire, and to the point where the nail salon people were like, do you guys just want to sit next to each other?
Yeah.
And we were like, okay.
Yeah, it was amazing. And now you're here on my podcast.
Yeah.
So if anybody is listening who doesn't know who you are and your podcast, do you want to explain a little bit about what it is and what made you start the Psychology of Your 20s?
Yeah. So I run the Psychology of Your 20s. I also run Mantra, which is my new show. And I've got a book coming out called Person in Progress, a roadmap to the Psychology of Your 20s. So really it all began, like, that's just like a litany of things that I feel proud of. But the Psychology of Your 20s is like the big thing for me. And I started it back in 2021 after a breakup in the back of my Subaru Forester. And I'd studied psychology. I was working in like the mental health field, and I was having all these discussions with my friends who were going through these really challenging parts of their 20s. And I was like, oh, you have to think about it this way. Like, this is an amazing study that actually will explain this really unique feeling you think you're having. Like, it's all explainable. You don't need to feel alone about this. Like, let me give you this research that I've been discovering myself. And my friend, I can't remember if she was like, you should start a podcast, or I was like, I'm going to start a podcast. But I had one distinct discussion with a friend where I left it being like, all right, I need to do this. And then I went to Queensland because I was in the midst of a breakup. And I remember like sitting there and being like, much like you with your move to Sydney, being like, if I don't do this, I'm really going to regret it. And I don't know what it was, but there was some part of me that just knew like, oh, you actually really need to do this. There's like some weird calling thing, felt supernatural. And I did. And then for the first year, I got 0 listens.
Seriously?
Yeah, I got like none. But I loved it so much that I kept doing it. Actually, there was a period where I didn't put out an episode for like over a month and a half. And I almost quit then because I was just like falling out of love with it.
Yeah.
And then I was like, no, keep going. Like, I really enjoyed this process. I'm really committed to doing this with no idea of what was going to happen, just knowing that it was important. And then it was actually one of those episodes around situationships. and then another one around career anxiety that just like took off.
Blew up.
Yeah, and it was so weird and it was so scary because I went from having like, I could literally see in my data, you know how when you have a podcast, you can see age demographics on like whatever platform you're using. I remember I could see like I had so few listeners that my grandma was showing up as a key age demographic. So it would be like 95% of it was so cute. It was like 95% of your listeners are in between like 19 and 34, and then it was like, and 5% are 60 plus.
That is crazy. And what were you using at the time? Like, what was the equipment you were using to record?
An iPhone 14. Literally, I need to go back and redo some of those early episodes because obviously, like, a lot of people's first point of entry is my first episode, and it is terrible quality.
Really?
It's called The Psychology of Imposter Syndrome, and it's terrible quality.
Wow. I can't actually believe that you had 0 listens in your first year to think about as to where you are now.
I had a couple, like, it wasn't like 0, but I remember after the first year I hit 5,000 listens, which is a lot of listens, but over like a lot of episodes. So most of them weren't getting more than 100 listens per episode.
And what did your friends and family think? Was everyone around you really supportive of you starting this podcast?
They were really supportive. Actually, I went through that breakup, right? And then I started dating someone like 7 months afterwards. Yeah. Terrible decision. Very bad decision. And it was a rebound, but it ended up being like such an influential relationship. And that guy, actually, I have a lot of gratitude for him because of how mean he was about it.
Really?
Yeah, he was terrible about it. He was like, oh, I showed my friends and they thought that was such a stupid name. And like, blah, blah, blah. And like, why would you choose such a specific genre? You know, the psychology of your 20s. Like, only people in their 20s are going to listen to that. Like, you're not going to reach many people. And he kind of like would like belittle it. And honestly, when I was at that point where I was like, I'm going to quit, I just kept thinking about what he had to say and was like, no.
Yeah, because I was going to ask, when you were at that moment where you thought, I don't want to carry on, you'd had a month and a half away from it, what was it really that made you carry on and keep going?
See, I don't really know. And that's the weird thing where I'm like, it's a bit like supernatural. I think also a part of me went back to why I was doing it. And it was like, I want to do this for myself. So I have a catalogue of my thoughts and feelings from my 20s if no one else ever listens. And also I was just like, I need to show myself that I can commit to things and that I started this project and I'm going to see it through and I'm going to keep doing it. And then I was also just like so fueled by anger and rage from this breakup. And this guy was just such a dick. Like, he was so horrible to me that I was like, he can't win.
How long were you with this guy?
Let me do the math. Probably like less than 6 months, and it was a situationship. But we were like, I was like, that we were dating. I met his grandparents, I met his parents, I taught him how to drive. I don't talk about this relationship much because in the end, like, it works. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm sure he's doing great things. I'm sure he is. Wish him the best of luck. But yeah, it wasn't that long, but it was so hot and heavy, and it was during COVID. So in Australia at the time, you could only see like your significant other. So really that was the only person you can see. So we were like each other's, I don't know, like, what was it called? Like, romantic partner, like, I don't know. Like, there was some weird thing where there was a clause where you could see like the person you were dating.
Right, okay.
Because
I was single, so I'm not sure.
Yeah. so was I for like the first half, and then I was like, oh, like this person. So the only way I could leave my share house with like 4 people in it in like a 3-bedroom
was with him,
was to see him. And so I spent a lot of time at his house to the point where like I almost basically moved in. And it was a really like intense period.
Don't you think it's crazy that I just came out of a situation kind of recently, and because I met his friends, I was convinced that he cared about me and that it was serious.
Because he let you in.
My friends were like, Emily, that's the absolute bare minimum. Like, he doesn't actually, like, don't take that as an excuse that he wants something more. He didn't. So they were right. But I think we need to talk about that more, because I think girls assume that, oh, he wants me to meet his friends, he must really care about me.
Yeah.
He's introduced, because if I really liked someone and saw a future with someone, I would then consider introducing them to my friends.
It's a big, like,
it's a huge thing.
Hurdle for, I think, relationships with women, right? Like, once you introduce to the friends, it's like, please don't fuck this up for me. Like,
yeah.
I don't want my friends to think I've made a bad choice, but for guys, I think they just don't
think about it.
It's whatever. I think sometimes you have to think, like, is this just easy for them? You know,
that's exactly what my friend said. She
Yeah.
was like, he's killing two birds with one stone here, because
he wants to hang out with
maybe he
his
wants to hang out with
dudes,
his
you know?
friends and hang out with you, and he doesn't prioritize you enough to just see you on his own. So he'll just see you all together.
I know, and that's the hard thing about situationships, is that it makes you so delusional that you read into everything. And to be honest, like, I do think that's a big thing for us, but for someone else, like, sometimes it's just not. And with this relationship, I thought meeting his parents would
I mean, that's crazy to me.
Yeah,
Parents.
I thought meeting his grandma and, like, having dinner with her was a big thing. Like, I thought saying I love you was a big thing. Like, no, still.
Do you think that it was the time, because it was COVID and you were spending so much time together, and I guess you would go around to his house, that became a bit more normal? Or do you just think that he would have done it anyway?
I don't know. And, like, I don't think about it too much because it worked out the way it needs to work out. I also just think he didn't like me that much. Like, he just didn't want to date me. Because he ended up dating someone pretty quickly after me. But that's a pattern with me. Like, I don't know what it is. I used to get really hung up on it, but every single person I would date someone within 2 months after we broke up.
Really?
And all of that, like, one of them even married that person.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It was a real terrible pattern.
But it's
for a
the
while.
whole thing, isn't it, about the right time? So you can date a guy and you can be with them, and then it's just not the right time. And then they meet someone 2 months after, and it's the right time for them and they're ready.
Yeah.
And
it's,
then
what's that, Sex in the City, the taxi cab?
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? I'm so grateful that it wasn't, because I can't imagine being with him long term, especially being with someone. And sometimes I would feel sorry for her and be like, God, I really hope you're not going through what I'm going through. But then I was also like, their relationship is probably very different to the one we had. And so I hope, like, it worked out really, really well for them. And sometimes it's just different people work better. And there's no explanation. You just have to understand that one day you'll meet the right person and be like, wow, I'm so glad all of that nonsense, which it is, like, happened to me, but also that it didn't work out the way I wanted.
Yeah.
That's, like, a really big lesson. And I don't know if you're, like, in that phase right now of being like, I'm glad this happened, but...
Oh, I am.
You
and
are?
I was listening to the Mel Robbins podcast recently. I think it was Mel Robbins that spoke about it. And she was saying how you will meet a guy who has been through all the lessons that he needed to go through when he meets you. And you'll be the girl that he's now ready for. And unfortunately, you have been that girl that was a lesson to another guy.
You have.
Yeah, but do you,
I know what you
it
mean.
hurts. So she was like,
Yeah.
and that hurts so much for you to know that you were just somebody's lesson, but then know that there will be a guy that you will meet that has done all of his lessons, and you're the one that he's now ready for after learning all of those things.
And I will say I'm now with someone amazing. We've
Yeah.
been together for, like, over 2 years, and he actually dated someone, and they broke up, like, 2 months before me. And I am sure that she was like, oh, he's moved on so quick. And, like, I'm sure it was really hard for her. Maybe it wasn't. But I was like, okay, so that was a hard situation for that other person, but it's led me to this person as well. And, like, he came into the relationship so fully prepared and having learnt all these things that were so important to him. And then I always say this to people. It's like when you enter a relationship with someone, you each have all this baggage and you dump it all out on the floor, and you have to slowly figure out, like, what are you going to take responsibility for and what am I going to take responsibility for? And any relationship that you begin with someone is going to be messy at some point, and it's actually just about clearing away the baggage until you have an empty floor, and until it's squarely put away where it needs to be. And sometimes things get pulled back out and thrown on the ground, like, but everything is leading you to the right person.
Yeah.
You have to remember that. And it's not like when you get there, it's going to be easy peasy and, like, done. I've found the love of my life. But that's not a scary thing, because with the right person, all the things that broke up previous relationships won't. The fear of commitment, that won't scare off the wrong person. Like, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. You know what I mean? Like, you realize that all those other relationships ended for a reason, and that reason won't be as important with the right person.
Yeah, I was actually wanting to ask you a question around this. We've kind of ended up on this topic earlier, but I want to stick with it. having like the fear of being too much and scaring someone away. How do you think we can deal with that? I mean, I've personally been in that situation a lot of times, and I think in our 20s we're so scared to really set our boundaries and say what we truly need because we think that if we do, they'll leave.
I know this feeling, and I know people get really worried about this in terms of getting attached too quickly. Oh, been there, done that, got the t-shirt. Like, I remember I dated this guy very casually after that situationship, and on like week 2 I was like, do you want to go on a trip? And he was like, not right now. And I was like, fuck that up. I was like, ooh. But the thing was, he also ended up being the wrong person. Anyone who thinks that you are too much or who judges you for putting your heart on your sleeve is not the one, because your life's mission is not to make other people comfortable and to make it easy for them, and it's not to burden them. And all that, it ends up being a bit of a farce. Like, you end up pretending that you don't like them, playing games, not responding for as long as they took to respond. And it's natural because you don't want to be hurt, right? It's basically putting a wall up between you and that other person. But actually, it makes it quite inauthentic. And it means that when you are ready to display emotions fully, when you do meet the right person, you're going to play those same games that actually end up interrupting your connection. And hopefully you're at the point where you can say, oh my God, so this person is going to be willing to take me as my all. But sometimes like the damage is done and it can just create more difficulty. So I always say, like, I think it's something you learn with age as well.
Yeah.
But because I had a huge period where I was like, I'm going to try and be less myself because that will make me palatable. They'll figure it out eventually. If it's something they don't like in the first month, they're not going to like it in 6 months, and they're not going to like it in a year.
Yeah.
So the best way for you to go forward is just to put it all on the table.
And did you put it all on the table with your current partner?
Oh, hell yeah. I literally was, yes. Yeah.
And were you like that before with...
No.
No.
I think I would be there, and then this part of me would be like, no, like, be quiet, like, shut that down. Like, I'd be like, oh, I really like you. And then I'd be like, don't say that. I'd be
so
like,
me.
oh, do you want to like go? Do you want to do something this weekend? And I'd be like overthinking it and like, like, should I text back? Should I not text back? I like triple texted that man. I was like,
so good.
Why aren't you responding to me? And he'd be like, oh, I'm so. I remember like
I love that so
like
much.
week 3, I was like, hey, why didn't you respond to my messages? He's a lawyer, and he was like, I'm so sorry, I was working. And I was like, well, I really need you to respond to my messages. And he was like, okay, I will. And he did it. And actually, I think
that is incredible.
Yeah, he's great. And like that same, like I. Like, just ask for what you want, because either they say no, in which case that's not the one, or they say absolutely resoundingly yes. And I also did this thing where, like, I think the same week we went out for sushi, and I was like, all right, so we need to have a chat. I'm looking for something serious.
But how far was this in?
3 weeks.
I absolutely love that.
I was like, I'm not going to waste my time.
This needs to be more of a thing, you know?
Yeah. 3 weeks in, I remember we were having sushi in Bondi, and that man was also, I love when a man's a bit obsessed with you. Like, he lived in Wollongong, and he would drive up like most nights to come and visit me in Bondi. What? Yeah, and he would like,
he wouldn't go home. That's like,
yeah, at the time he was working in Sutherland, so a little bit closer, but he lived in Wollongong, and he would spend like days in Sydney without going home just to like be with me. And he would do like the hour-and-a-half drive like back and forth, or like do the long train journey like with multiple stops. And
wow.
And I was like, that's what I want. Like, you deserve someone to be obsessed with you. But 3 weeks in, and honestly all the signs were there, but we went and got sushi, and I was like, all right, what are we? Because I'm not going to waste my time. Is this going somewhere serious? Are you seeing other people? And and to his credit, he was like, listen, I think this is going really, really well. I'm not going to like, I don't want to make any promises yet because it is still early days, but I'm not seeing other people, and I'll let you know if I ever feel like I need to.
That's so mature.
Yeah, and he was great. And then actually I was, I did kind of push it at like the 2-month mark. I was like, so am I your girlfriend? And he was like, he'd been kind of hurt in a past relationship and he didn't want to commit too quickly, but I was like, I need that label because I can't do another situationship. And he was like, can you just wait? Like, can you just give me some time to just make sure I'm ready? And he said, like, because if I'm going to be your boyfriend, like, that comes with a lot of responsibility for me.
How did that feel?
Oh, it was awful.
Yeah.
I was so panicked. But he was doing all the boyfriend things. Like he was sending flowers to my office. Like we would,
Oh my gosh,
he
that
was
is
like taking me
adorable.
on dates. Like he was talking about the future. We like were just like having the best time. But yeah, then he made me wait like another 3 weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Oh, so
And
not long, but long. It probably felt
for
long
me,
to you,
I was
yeah.
like, every day I was like, when's he gonna ask me? And I did kind of like, we had a couple arguments about it, and he was like, please don't push me. And I did, I was panicking. I was like, oh my
Really?
God, I really like this guy and it's not going to work out. And then he did. And he was like, I just needed some time. So I will say, but that was a respectful conversation. Like, it wasn't like he ghosted me as soon as I brought it up.
Yeah.
It wasn't like he just like shut down my feelings. It was obvious that like it was moving towards someone, and he was super communicative about what he needed from himself, not from me, to be ready for that commitment. And I really appreciated it.
Wow, that's incredible. And you're still together now, and you
Yeah.
live together, right?
Yeah.
And you've got a foster dog.
And we've got a foster dog together, and we're
She is
moving
so cute.
together, and like we do everything together, and like we actually just have, I know it's still very early, like we've only been
Yeah.
together for like just over 2 years, but we actually have so much fun.
Mm.
And we have like, we just laugh. And I just never laughed that way with anyone I previously dated. It felt so anxiety inducing at times.
Yeah.
Especially with, remember like with my first boyfriend, like we would just fight all the time.
It's not
Like,
normal.
yeah, not normal, and it did not feel fun. Sometimes it felt like exciting, but it didn't feel fun.
But it's the up and down, isn't it? Of like, oh, it's good now, and then it's bad again, and it's that
Have
dopamine
you had that
hit.
experience?
Yeah. Oh, definitely in the past. But it's funny that you say that, because I had the conversation with that guy, and it was the biggest move I've ever made, and I just had to say, like, what is it that you want? I don't feel like we're on the same page. And it ended fine, but it saved my time. And it was the
Yeah.
short-term pain
Yeah.
for the long term of having to, like, maybe 6 months down the line be in a situationship.
And be even more crushed.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
you've invested more in the what if.
Yeah.
Like, I just feel like, don't do it my way. Sorry, I needed my. Don't do it my way. That was too soon. Like,
I don't know. Gemma,
Maybe.
I actually back it. I think that was good. 3 weeks in.
yeah.
If he was obsessed with you as well, and you could see that,
Yeah, he was.
then I feel like fair enough.
He was obsessed with me. Like, and you deserve someone to be obsessed with you. I was
Yeah.
talking to one of my friends about this the other day, who's in this pseudo relationship thing. Like, they're dating, but like he's just like not giving her what she needs. And I just like had this moment of frustration with her, and I was just like, do you not realize, like, you are so incredible?
Yes, but you don't see that in
Yeah.
yourself.
I'm like, he's so boring.
Yes.
He's so boring.
Why
if
do
he's
we
not
do
gonna,
this?
I know, I'm like, if he's not going to do it for you now, he's not going to do it in 5 years. Like,
I don't know why we do this as females. Why we put guys on a pedestal so much.
oh, it's just the stigma of being single, and it's this like societal pressure that we don't want to opt into, but yet it's forced upon us that if you're not in a relationship, your life is empty. You can't possibly be happy.
Yeah.
Especially as we approach 30. I think there's also this thing of like, if you want children, there's a definite fear of like the biological clock
Oh,
like
gosh,
is
don't
running
even
out,
go
and
there.
timelines of like, well, if I'm going to have kids by 35, well, I have to be married to the guy by 30, which means I have to have met him by 27.
My brain every single day.
Yeah. And it starts this like reverse thing.
Yeah.
It's like, actually, no, there are so many different timelines. There are so many different available paths. I would much rather, when I was single, luckily I met the right person. Maybe he won't be the right person for my whole life, but I'm hoping he is. But I remember like saying to my friends, I would much rather at this stage be single until 35 and meet someone at 35 or even 40 than
Be with the wrong person.
and then break up at 50. Like,
Yeah.
you have to think about it in that way of, yes, you can't control what happens, but you have to just be quite harsh when it comes to your partner. It's the biggest decision you will make.
Absolutely.
The biggest decision. And I know, like, I'm not judging anyone who rushes in, because I've done that before, and it's so hard not to. But sometimes you do need to have that like conscious part of you go, like, interrupt and go, if I'm feeling all this doubt and all this insecurity, maybe it would be better if I was single, because that means I can become an even better version of myself that I can
For
love.
the next person.
Yeah, and also just for you. And you know, I used to always say, like, if my soulmate met me right now, would they like me? Because do I like myself?
I love
And
that.
if the answer is no, like, you shouldn't be dating. Like, if you don't like yourself enough to think that someone else could love you,
How can anyone love you?
Yeah, and I still think they can, but I just think that should be the thing you're working towards. I don't think we're ever going to achieve it, but if you are seriously in the state of like, I need love to fulfill me, maybe that's a better way to say it. Like, it's just never going to do what you think it's going to. And in fact, it could end up tearing you down even more. Like, you really have to ask yourself, do I actually like myself? Am I putting in the work so that I enjoy my own company, so that even if this person never came along, I'd still be okay?
Yeah. And I feel like I've been on my own, single, for 4 years now. And before I was constantly in and out of relationships. And I've got into such a good place where I'm just happy with my own company, and that really takes some time. And I feel like I see a lot of people around me just in relationships for the sake of being in a relationship. And then I just think, but that's it now for the rest of your life, and you're stuck maybe at home in the UK. You'll never go traveling, you'll never do these things because you're with this person and you've missed out.
Yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's like life is so precious, but it's finite. Like, you really have to be in charge of making this a good life for you as much as you can be. And your partner is a huge component. Like, sometimes I wish I could just scream at my younger self. And then I will say it was important lessons, but just be like, no, like,
Stop.
Like, this is your life. Why are you wasting your time, your precious, precious time? And like, being single is so sacred.
Oh, it's the best. I actually enjoy being single, honestly.
Yeah. Part of me really did as well. Like, I love my relationship, and don't get me wrong, but like,
the right relationship
feels
good. Like, it doesn't
you get all the best parts of being single.
Yeah, exactly.
Like the independence, like the freedom, just with a partner to do it with.
Yeah.
The wrong relationship, you'll be like, fuck, I wish I was single.
Yeah, absolutely.
Part of you in the back of your mind will be like, God, I wish I didn't have to consider someone else in my plans. Wish I didn't have to monitor this person's emotions. Wish I didn't have to constantly think like how they're going to react.
Do they like me?
Do they like me?
Yeah.
Like, do they like?
When are they going to text me back? Why haven't they text me back? Yeah.
Imagine how much. Imagine all the things you could do if you weren't worried about when someone's going to text you back.
I think that's why. I think it's actually being single that made me start the podcast, because I had so much time on my hands.
Yay! Same. I was single when I started my podcast. Like, you get to do so many cool things. I feel like if I was in a relationship at very key points in my life, I would not have done some of the things I did, because a relationship does take a lot of work. Yeah, a relationship is work. And I remember being younger and being like, oh, that's scary. Why would I want to work on something that like should be so natural? But it is. You're with this other person, and if you really care about them, you are going to give them like 10, 20, 30% of your life and your energy and your resources.
Yeah.
As they should do for you as well. So
you kind of just touched on a few things before that we were talking about within this that I want to go on to. So you mentioned that you did a lot of things, and I think you've made a lot of decisions to be in this place where you are now with your podcast,
hopefully.
doing it all full time. So do you want to share a little bit about that journey? Because I think that really resonates with me and a lot of people in the 20s. You mentioned that you did psychology, but I believe you went into the corporate world.
Oh, yeah.
So can we talk a little bit about that?
Baddie.
Yeah.
I worked as a consultant, a management consultant.
Yeah.
Which a lot of people are like, what does that mean? You just solve problems.
Yeah, what even is a management consultant? Because so many of my friends in London are consultants.
Yeah.
I'm like, what do you do? A consultant.
Yeah, you're like, huh? I know. Basically, people just pay you to solve problems for them that they don't want to solve.
Yeah.
Like,
okay.
a company is like, oh my God, we have this huge issue. We don't have the people or the money or whatever to figure it out. And then they'll just pay someone else to figure it out. It's like, when your plumbing isn't working in a house, so you call a plumber. It's like if your organization isn't working, you call a consultant.
Okay, and were you working for...
It was called Nous, and it was in Sydney. Oh, it's all across Australia and in Canada and places as well. And I mainly did mental health initiatives. I did health and mental health. So,
oh, cool.
Yeah, like I actually did some really cool work. And I mean, even before that, I was working in like the space and in the research and mental health space, doing like child maltreatment and domestic violence. And then I moved mainly into like the infrastructure around mental health in Australia and in New South Wales particularly. So it's kind of boring to talk about it. But
did you ever want to be a psychologist?
Well, actually, I was about to... This is the thing that I feel like not many people know. I was on that path. I'd taken a year off to work, and then I was hoping that I could do... My work would pay for my master's, and I was about to go and do my master's.
Yeah, because it's different here, because I did my In the UK, you have to do work experience to get onto the doctorate, and then you do the doctorate, which is 3 years, and then you become a clinical psychologist, which is the route that I would go down. But here you do a master's, right?
Yeah, here you do like your undergraduate, then your honours. Most people do them together. Then you apply for your master's, and then you have to do your master's, and then you have to do like clinical supervision and it's, my gosh, it's tough.
It's so
Some of my
hard.
friends are doing it, and I'm like, they get paid nothing, and they work so hard. Like, my friend was working out like an hour and a half out of Sydney, so she had to do a 3-hour commute, and she wasn't getting paid, and she had to pay her bills, so she had to work elsewhere. And just like the stress and the toll it took, and it was for like a year, almost 2 years.
Honestly, it's crazy. I don't know if you've ever worked in clinical settings.
I have, yeah, and it's like...
But they're, oh my gosh, like I would fear for my life some days when I'd go into these places, and you'd be, I was like 21, like zero life experiences.
No, it's
seeing some awful things, and like...
Yeah, you do see some pretty terrible things, and like it definitely scars you, and that was like a big reason why I actually quit one of my jobs before I started NOWS, because I was like, ooh, I can't be doing this.
No.
I'm 21.
That's it. And you're like, seeing these things.
I'm a child.
You shouldn't be seeing things like that, really. And then you see how badly run a lot of the systems are. I don't know what it's like here, but
it's terrible.
in the UK, it's so bad.
And then they're like, oh, we need more psychologists. It's like, okay, but then pay them so that they can do that.
And
like,
make it easier for trainee psychologists to become psychologists. You make it so hard.
I'm like, do you know how privileged that is to be able to work those hours free?
The amount of free work that I've done is actually crazy.
I know a lot of people in healthcare have to do it, and they're like, you have to earn it, and like, well, you know, you'll get paid heaps when you get there. How many people don't get there though?
No.
How many people are you keeping out, and then you complain that like, not you, but you, like, but then like people complain, they're like, well,
I know, I can't even.
We have a mental health crisis.
Everything that you're saying to me, it's just, this is why I didn't become a psychologist.
Yeah,
because the road to becoming a psychologist was so tough, and I was like, I don't even know how I'll ever do this. And I've still got friends who are still on the road. I'm 28. Like,
I know, me too. I've got someone who's 30 who's still doing it, and I'm not still, but
still trying to get
onto that. And well, that was my big ordeal, was like, do I go and become a psychologist? And I'd already done so much work in that space, just like having done mental health first aid training and a bunch of like diplomas and like other things.
Volunteering, I assume.
Yeah, and volunteering, but then also having worked like in a research background, because I also had an economics and a philosophy and a politics degree, so like that kind of component, which a lot of people also don't know. And so I would do a lot of behavioral stuff, but it was like a turning point where I was like, do I go and become a psychiatrist or become a psychologist? And then I was just doing this podcast for fun, and then I was like, oh, and then it was like these two big things that I was like choosing between, and then this other big thing was coming up and being like pushing them to the side. Oh my
gosh.
And I was like, oh no, like and it was a big choice of like, which do I choose? And it just became very apparent that maybe I'd have to forego the path I expected, because I couldn't say no to this opportunity. Like, it very rarely happens to people, and it has like completely changed my life that people listen to my podcast. But I'm very clear in being like, listen, if you need individualized help, I can't provide that for you. Like, I hope that I'm filling a little bit of a gap for people in terms of navigation, like knowing where to go, and in terms of some bonus tips if you don't have access to a psychologist yet. If you are seeing someone, a professional, but you just want some extra like homework, but it's never like a full supplement. You know what I mean?
No,
you have to make choices in life. Like, sometimes I'm like, oh, should I have gone and done my master's and then done the podcast so I had a few more qualifications? And I was like, it wouldn't have been there when I came back.
But it wouldn't have worked out.
No, it wouldn't have.
So what was that pivotal moment where you decided to quit your job? Do you remember it?
Yeah, it was when my podcast signed within like a network. And I remember being like, signing and being like, my agent, I got an agent.
What?
I know. I was like, and I remember she kept emailing me, and I was like, scam.
How did you like?
She like reached out to me. She's still my agent now. She's great.
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, why do I need an agent? I have a podcast. That's ridiculous. And she was like, oh, you can make money from this. She's like, you have a really huge show. How much are you making? And I'm like, $0. And she was like, that's insane. Like, you have 40, 50, 60,000 listens per episode at this point. and you're not making a dime.
Did you know that you could make money from podcasting?
I did. I just didn't know how, and I kept trying to find like advertisers. And I remember, I'm not going to name the partner, but people can figure it out. I did have a partner, like an advertising partner at the time, and I remember I sent over the contracts to my agent, and she was like, "They are grossly underpaying you, and they know it. Like, you're basically giving them this for free." And I remember being so proud of me, like, "Look at that! Like, I've negotiated this deal." Oh, sorry. I remember like being like, "Oh, look at that! Like, I like negotiated this deal," and she was like, "You were like giving that away. Like, that's like a donation." And I was like, gosh. "Oh," so they totally took me for a ride, but it was fine. Like, I was learning, and then I just I signed this deal, and I quit my job the next day. And
how did it feel when you quit your job?
I was so nervous because I did really like my work and I did really like my colleagues, but I remember being like, "I'll be back in a year." I was like, "This isn't going to last."
Really?
And it's been, when did I quit? I quit in 2023, so it's been 2 years this year, which even that is like, only 2 years is not that long.
Have there been any moments in these past 2 years that you've maybe thought about quitting?
The podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's so crazy that you asked me that. Yes, definitely. It's a lot of work.
It's a lot. And you're
it's just me. People don't know that. It's like, it is just me. I write the episodes, I record them, I edit them, I upload them.
And I don't even do it on even a scale as large as yours.
And it's twice a week.
It is so time consuming.
It's so time consuming, but I'm such a control freak. But there was a period last year where I was like, what would it be like to just post an episode saying goodbye? And then I was like, whoa, that's a scary thought.
What? Why did I think that?
Yeah, but I was like, I was just so tired and I was so burnt out. And I was just like, oh, is this worth it? Like, I was getting a bit of hate online. Not really that much. Yeah, like, not that much, because I feel like it's kind of a safe space.
Yeah.
I'm not like saying anything. I don't know. I'm just not an arsehole. Hopefully people don't think I'm an arsehole. Yeah. But then again, people just don't like women. Like, women
true.
with
success, a voice and opinions. Yeah.
That's really what I mainly got it from. The girls were all loving, but it was the men who were just like, "You're ugly and you don't deserve it."
Oh my gosh.
But I did really think about it. And
How did you deal with that?
Oh, I either just like block them, or I just like just sugarcoat them in so much kindness that I'm just like, well,
you have to, right?
Yeah. I'm like, you must just be so sad.
Yeah.
You're just sitting there and this, like, I don't know, the only times I've wanted to ever leave negative comments, I remember being like, ugh, that feels gross. And then like, maybe like the one time I was like, I left a comment being like, this is not, like, you shouldn't be saying this. It was like someone doing something really weird, like really terrible. And then I was like, oh, even though I know this person is wrong, like, I don't need to comment on it. And
just leave them to it.
Yeah, just leave them to it. And I was like, and I deleted it. And I was just like, I don't need to be policing people, or like, I don't need to be a negative influence, even against someone else's terrible negativity. Like, that's just not helpful.
No.
And it pulls you down. But yeah, I have thought about quitting.
Because you spoke recently online about your mental breakdown, and I remember you doing a podcast. Was the title literally "I had a breakdown"? I had a mental breakdown or something.
I had a mental breakdown. I was so and ahhed about posting that.
Yeah, what happened? Like, how did it feel? Because you're such, and like, you're like the voice of reason for so many people in their 20s, and then you like were suffering yourself.
And it definitely felt like it was a bit performative at times, where I was like, they can't know.
Really?
Am I going to become an unreliable narrator? Yeah, because there's so much stigma around mental health that I really did debate even posting that episode up until like the moment I posted it. But then I thought, I have a psychology podcast. If I'm not going to talk about this, who is going to talk about this?
Yeah.
Like, who's going to do it?
I mean, had you struggled with your mental health before that?
Yeah, I feel like for my whole life. Like, from probably the time I was like 6, I can remember being so like, I would just obsessively think about really terrible things, and I wouldn't know how to stop my brain from doing it. And I'd be like, oh my, and especially like death. My brain loves to go think about that.
So funny, because I remember when you put up your episode about your death related anxiety, and 3 years ago I had like an absolute mental breakdown, and I couldn't leave the house for like
It's
3
awful.
months because of my fear of death.
Yeah.
Um,
It's just this thing where it's
crazy, isn't
you
it?
have to
How
go
it takes
through it
over.
though. But you have to go through it and figure out how you have to find a healthy way to think about death. Otherwise, it will control you.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, I think everyone has to figure it out. An existential crisis, like, you have to go through it.
Yeah.
And I've been through it a couple of times, but I'm getting better at it. And that last time, it just kind of snuck up on me, and I just kept posting episodes at that time, which I was like, because I had a contract, I couldn't take a break. Like, I have a contract to put out, like, 104 new episodes every year. I could not take a break.
Wow.
So I just had to keep pushing, but that pushing is what had got me there in the first place. Luckily, I had a few like backup episodes stored. I feel like some part of me knew it was coming.
Really?
So I like suddenly had, I was like, normally I don't have more than like 2 months worth of episodes stored. But a part of me, like, I was like, why do I have all these bonus episodes so I just was like putting out stuff I'd already made. And then I was like, I think I need to talk about this. Like, I think I need to be honest about the fact that this is really hard. But here I am, and I've made it through, and it's okay. Like, you're going to be okay.
What do you think made you get through it?
I just think time, and also changing how I thought about it. It was a very deliberate almost going into my brain, and every time a negative thought would pop up, and my immediate reaction would be like, I'd be like, hey, and I'd like grab it, I'd be like talking to it and being like,
Yeah.
we need to have a chat, because that's not how we're going to think about this. So let's
Yeah.
reprogram this. And definitely like, and then of course I got a really good therapist.
Yeah.
I previously had one, but I feel like I needed something different. Like, I needed a different kind of therapy. Like,
What did you do in the end?
I
Out
went
of
to
interest.
an existential psychologist.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you went to someone who literally specializes in that.
Yeah, not just death, but like, I remember actually, I'm not gonna like at them, but there is there is a psychology clinic in Sydney that like talks about how they specialize in death anxiety.
Okay.
And I remember calling them and being like, I have death anxiety to the point where like I've gone to hospital because I've been panicking, and they were like, oh, your case is too serious. And I was like, you can't advertise that you treat death anxiety and then someone
say
goes, this is how my death anxiety is so serious that like I've had to go to the emergency room because I literally thought I was dying from a panic attack, and then be like, nah. I was like, and I remember leaving a review and being like, and they made me feel worse. They made me feel so terrible,
Well,
and they made me feel
probably made you
untreatable.
Like you'll never get through this.
And the thing was that they actually were like, we don't have any appointments available. And I was like, okay. And then my mum called up, and she was like, oh, my daughter, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, oh, we can get her in next week. So they lied to me, and they said, we don't have any appointments. And
Wow.
and then she said, oh, my daughter's name is this, Jemma Sbeg. And they're like, oh, she actually already called us. Like, actually, just kidding. Like, actually, no, we don't have any space.
What?
And my mum was like, okay, but you just told me you did, and she really needs help. They're like, well, she's too, like, we already spoke to her about it. And I was like, no, they didn't. They just said they didn't have an appointment available. And they basically, like, lied to us. And
Oh my gosh.
it was so awful. And I'm not going to, like, at them because some people screw up. Like, it's okay.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, that was this real instance of being like, gosh, even when, like, and then I also had I called like an emergency line, like a lifeline kind of thing, just to be like, it was like a navigational line to be like, hey, like, I need an emergency appointment with a psychiatrist or a psychologist. Can you help me? And they couldn't help me. And not only that, they were like, what triggered this? Did you watch any scary movies?
Oh my gosh.
And I was like, no, I didn't watch a scary movie. I'm mentally ill. Like that's ridiculous that you would ask, that you're a trained professional and you ask someone in distress if they had watched a scary movie. Like, they're
Oh my gosh.
6 years old and having like a nightmare.
Yeah.
And I just felt like, okay, private sector, public sector, like both of them really let me down.
Yeah.
And luckily I managed to find someone who did really help me. But those experiences, like, especially the death anxiety clinic, I'm hoping that's not what it's called, but yeah, like, especially it's not, like, the death anxiety clinic, I was like, gosh, like, people would just say anything, and like, they're not, like, you just feel so in the dark about how to deal with this. So I really wanted to be like, if you're dealing with this is what I would want you, this is what I would have wanted to know.
Yeah. And you don't deal with it now as much.
Oh, it's still there. Like, even last night I was like, like, having these really scary thoughts, but I was like, okay, like, you can actually change how you think about that. You know, for a lot of mental illnesses or poor mental health, like, that's not an option. But I think for that specific fear that I was having, it was hard, but I was like, I have to work towards
just
going into this.
accepting death. I think that's what it's all about, isn't it? Just becoming okay with the concept of death because it's inevitable.
Yeah, but also being like, we have all these terrible feelings about what's going to happen afterwards. It's like, how do you know that?
Exactly.
Isn't it quite arrogant to assume that this terrible
actually
idea
know,
that your brain is cooked up is the one?
Yeah.
Or isn't it arrogant? Like, I always see these people who are like, well, this is what's going to happen and this is what's going to happen. It's like, how do you know that?
No, nobody knows.
You can come up with your own idea. And I have this theory that the version of like death that you most believe is what's going to happen. So you need to focus on thinking of something really, really good.
Oh yeah, my narrative's very nice.
Yeah, so it's
has to
mine.
be.
Yeah, and you know what? Who can say it's not real?
I actually used to read books when I was going through it. I was working with an EFT practitioner, and she said that I should read books about near-death experiences, but not bad, but nice things. And honestly, that weirdly really helped me.
Were a lot of them good?
Yeah, they were also. I never read I purposely didn't read anything that was negative.
Also, it's hard to find ones that are negative.
Yeah, and it's just all this like really like transformative experience. And mostly most people said that they wished they stayed there because it was so peaceful.
Yeah.
So
Isn't that nice?
Yeah, so that's how I try and think about it.
Yeah. Anyway, look at this. Look at us with all our topics. We're like, you guys came for the relationship advice. You stayed for the death advice, the death anxiety advice.
No, I think what we should move on to, which I think is very relevant, is feeling behind in your 20s. And obviously, you've made this huge decision to quit the stereotypical route.
Quit the 9 to 5.
And the dog.
She's so excited.
Quit the stereotypical route and do your own thing. And I think we all want to do that. Doing a Pilates teach training course, which is so random.
Is it fun?
Yes, well, it's a lot of work actually.
I would imagine.
Like a lot of teaching hours that I have to do, but I've done the training. And I go into a class and I'm like, how will I ever be an instructor? But I don't know. I feel like I just wanted to try something new and decided to do something completely different. And I'm almost 30 and that feels crazy.
But 30 is so young.
But it's also so young. And the reason I was listening to your podcast the other day and the guest was talking about we actually have so much time.
Was it Victoria?
Yeah.
She's great, right?
And she was like, we have so much time. And we always hear that we don't have enough time. So then when someone tells you that you do have enough time, it kind of makes you second guess it. And you're like, well, wait, I actually do. I'm 28. My mum always tells me I have so much time. But yeah, I feel so behind and like I'm losing time at this, all at the same time.
I get that feeling. You know what I always say to people is like, think about how quickly your life could change in a minute. And we always think that it's going to be for the worst. Oh, it could change in a minute for the best. You just don't know when that's going to happen. And, I quit my job 2 years ago. That's only 2 years of like, that's not really that much time. And my whole life has changed. You could be 30, 40, 50 and decide to change your life and still have years and years and years ahead of you for this whole new period and transformation. I know people at 80 who have decided to do something different.
Yeah.
My grandparents moved towns, moved cities and changed their lives at like 85.
Wow.
And like have a whole new set of friends and a whole new set of hobbies and they got a dog. It's like they're 80, like my grandfather's 85. He's pretty fit.
Oh
he's pretty fit. Funny story about him. He decided he wanted to lose weight for his 90th. He was like, I need to be fit for my 90th. And then on his 90th, he ate
what was he doing to lose weight?
Oh, he was just, riding his bike. He was walking the
Wait,
dog.
that's such an Australian
He stopped eating salami. He was like, I cut out wine and salami and cheese. And then on his birthday, he ate too much chocolate cake and ended up getting like really like he got like a sugar
rush or
he had
something.
such a bad sugar rush that he was like, whoa. Yeah, this is not funny, but they have to call paramedics.
What?
Because they were
Sorry,
like, what's wrong with him? They were like, is he having a stroke? And then they were like, oh, he just ate too much birthday cake. I love him. He's the
Wait,
best.
that is actually the best thing ever.
Oh, he's so great. I'm not like, he's the best. I was
Oh
like,
my gosh.
oh, look at you. You're so, so
Yeah.
healthy that you, too much birthday cake made you feel, ruined you. Like,
Wow.
too much unhealthy food. Like, you know what I mean? It's just like
There's so much time.
happen. And you know that quote that I love is that like, nothing can happen for years and then a whole lifetime can happen in a year.
Yeah, wow.
So much can happen in a year. Like the year that I literally, like, I went from doing the same thing I had done, like, I went from studying, working, and then literally in the span of 2 months, I quit my job. I met the love of my life.
Wow.
Like, I went overseas. I moved, like, even in that year, if we take that year,
Yeah,
like, I started a new job.
that's crazy.
Then I moved cities. Then I met
To Sydney, right?
To Sydney.
Where were you before again?
I was in Canberra. That's
Oh,
where I went
okay.
to uni. Like, I lost a bunch of friends. I also gained a bunch of friends. I then, you know, met the person that I loved. Like, between the ages of 22 and 23, my whole life changed. And, like, yes, I was really young when that happened, but I'm sure that's going to happen time and time and time again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, it's going to happen a million more times for me and a million more times for you. And what are we really behind in terms of?
exactly.
What are we...
Society's precious.
Yeah, what are we racing towards? Like, genuinely, what's the finish line here? The finish line is like death.
Yeah, it's
Like-
it's supposed to be, life is supposed to be just a journey, I think.
Yeah.
Of lessons and
Evolution.
figuring it out and then
Yeah.
not figuring it out again. Yeah, just evolving as a person.
I love that you're doing... I would definitely take a Pilates course by you. How many hours have you done?
would.
I would love it. Oh my God, it'd be so much fun, but we'd probably yap too much.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah,
And I've been
there'd
to
be a
one of
lot.
those courses and I'm like, remember I went to like a class and it was quite small. So like 7 people and like in where I grew up, like in Queensland. And like 2 of the people were like really good friends with the instructor and they just talked the whole time. And I remember just doing my own thing. I like wasn't even listening. I was just like, I'm just going to do a bunch of leg presses and footwork. Like cause she didn't even realize.
Do you go to Pilates often?
Yeah, I go like 3 times a week.
Oh, love that.
I love it.
Reformer or Matt?
I do reformer. Should I do mat?
You know, Matt's actually really underrated.
I've heard that. Apparently you sweat a lot.
Yeah, I think that obviously Reformer's blown up, but Matt's actually pretty good as well.
I like reformer because it makes me feel like a child. I'm like,
Yeah.
"Wee!"
This is literally exercise though. If you
know.
see it as a playground, even the
Yeah.
gym. Yeah, it's
I'm
great.
like,
but it's
honestly,
also really hard.
It's so hard, but
It's
I get
so
to feel like I'm having a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Like my exercise go-tos at the moment is I'm training for a half marathon.
I'm training for a marathon.
Should we go for a run?
Yeah, we should go for a run.
I run-
I'm not very fast.
Me
No.
neither. We do this thing on Sundays called like we call it antisocial run club. It's not even an official run club. And I said to my
How many people are in the run club?
3.
I
And I
love
said-
it.
and we have some guest appearances. Like we have a few friends who come like
Yeah,
every
yeah.
month or so. And I remember saying to like my best friend, I was like, if I ever join a run club, like just shoot me there. Like something's happened to me mentally. Like I'm like it's early onset
you
dementia.
should see
Like,
some of the run clubs in Bondi. I think.
oh, I'm never doing that. This is
No.
an inner west run club.
it's bad.
I know, and I
it's
will.
bad.
I was like, I can't opt into that. But then I just like suddenly fell in love with running because I ran with my friends who were
Oh,
quite
it's
slow.
so nice. And then you get coffee and like
Yeah.
brunch after, and it's a
Yeah.
whole social thing, and you all feel good, and you can chat
Yeah.
while you're running. Yeah, I love that.
Well, every Sunday we don't do chats, so we give each other an hour. We start at the same point.
Okay.
We run the first 500 meters together at the slowest person's pace, but
That's
we don't
good.
talk, and we have headphones in the entire time.
What's
And then we just go our own pace. We do Centennial Park.
Yeah, I love Centennial Park.
Yeah,
That's
me
where I
too.
was
It's my
growing up.
favourite
It's probably,
loop.
you know, it's the first place that made me fall in love with trees. How random is that? I never appreciated
Really?
a tree as much as when I first went to Centennial Park. It was one of the first places I went when I came to Sydney.
It's the best.
And I remember looking at trees and thinking, oh my God, trees are amazing. How have I never realised how amazing trees are?
Because you're from the UK, babe.
But then also, yeah.
The trees here are pretty
the trees
special.
are not great in the UK.
What's your
no.
favourite part of Centennial Park? And wait, let's see, because I've got one in my brain.
I don't know exactly whereabouts it is or how to. Well, there's a big lake.
The big pond area?
Yeah, the
but
big
is it
pond
on the
area.
side or is it in the middle?
It's in the middle,
Yeah.
and there's some benches around it. Do you know where I mean?
know, I do,
and it's
actually.
really, really peaceful. And there's this one bench, and it's got a big tree over it. And I've sat there so many times and just like FaceTime my parents or just sat and read a book.
I love it.
It's a very special place.
Centennial Park is my favorite place in Sydney. And
Honestly, same.
it's the best. There's so much to do there and like explore, and I go there like a lot and I still find new things to look at.
And I'm just so amazed. I was having this conversation with the taxi driver. You've been to the UK before, so especially London, you'll know.
But
if you've ever been to a London park,
I like the Heath.
You like Hampstead Heath.
Yeah. I feel
That's
like
nice.
she's an exception.
Yeah, but still, it doesn't feel safe.
I will say there was a really creepy guy there when I went last.
Yes.
And I was like, ooh.
There's never creepy guys in Centennial Park.
No, not that we see, because I think it's so populous. Like people are always around.
Yeah.
Even in like but I guess not. Like it just feels very safe there.
It's so safe, it's so peaceful. There's no like, we call them chavs in the UK, but there's no chavs sat
What's
there.
a chav?
It's like a
Like a scary
bogan, maybe? Would you call? No, that's not even.
A bogan?
Do you know what a bogan is?
Oh yeah, my
So
whole
a
family is bogans, babe.
But so maybe not a bogan then.
What is the chav equivalent in
Yeah,
Australia?
yeah.
Is it leave it in the Spotify comments below.
Yeah, okay.
But I will say, like, back to what we were talking about. Anytime I go to a new place, I always find a really beautiful park and I explore it. So like New York, Prospect Park.
Never been.
It's
Amazing.
I spent like a whole day there when I was in New York last. Like I had one day off and I just spent the whole day in the park.
Wow.
Hampstead Heath. I love Hampstead Heath.
Hampstead Heath is really
like
nice.
I have this dream of like we're moving to the UK.
I can't believe you're moving to the UK.
I know, it's crazy.
London?
Yeah, I didn't really want to move to London, not
What?
gonna lie.
London's amazing though.
Oh, good, because some people tell me it's not good.
I already told you this when we're in
You
the nail
did.
salon. It's like,
Did I say the same thing?
you were like, oh, can you tell me that London's good? It's incredible.
Okay, well, I said to Tom, if we're going to move to London, we have to live near the Heath. And then I looked up how much it costs to live near the Heath. And I said, okay, we can live somewhere else.
So you're not living near the Heath?
Oh, well, listen, podcasts don't pay that much. Like, I can't afford that.
I'm intrigued. You'll have to tell me where you're living.
Well, probably like Islington or something.
Yeah, it's nice.
I like that.
I lived in Brixton.
Where's Brixton?
Oh, go to Brixton.
Oh, okay, cool.
This would be a cultural experience for you.
Oh, but is it fun?
It's so fun.
Okay,
It's like Newtown.
I like Camden.
It's kind of like it's like it would be similar, like street food, a lot of graffiti.
Obviously, I'm a Newtown girl. I'm moving out of Newtown. I can't even talk about it. I've been crying about it constantly. And I'm moving 2 suburbs over. But I love Newtown so much.
It is nice. I wish I knew more about Newtown before I decided to be a Bondi girly.
Listen.
Because I'm not actually a Bondi girly, and I think people need to know, because a lot of people that listen to my podcast, one of my most listened to podcasts is actually about me moving to Australia. And I feel like every British person just thinks Bondi Beach. Then I moved here, and then I was like,
but you don't meet any
Surrey
Australians.
Hills,
Yeah.
Paddington, Newtown, they're all so much more me.
If you are someone who is British, who is from a different, I'm assuming a lot of your listeners are British.
Yeah.
But if you're someone who's not from Australia who wants to move to Australia, do not move to Bondi Beach.
No.
I get the appeal of being close to the beach.
It's not good.
Do not move to Bondi Beach. Move to Maroubra. Move to Manly if you really want to be close to a beach. Move to like Potts Point.
Yeah, Potts Point.
Honestly, it's still cheaper. Move to Edgecliff even.
Yeah.
Or I'm not a beach girl. Like I love the beach. I grew up near the beach, but like not in terms of the Sydney beaches. Like I prefer the inner city.
Yeah.
Move to like Camberdown or Newtown. And you should move to Newtown. And I shouldn't be saying it because it's going to like suddenly all the Brits are going to be here and everyone's going to be like, Coogee all over again.
That's Irish. So
It's Irish.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's not the UK, but you know, political.
Awkward.
Oopsies.
Depends if it's Northern Irish, so it's fine.
We got really off track, but I like it. Hopefully people like chatty podcasts.
Yeah, I mean, we did touch on something, which is, I've got a few things just down here, but friendships. You mentioned that you lost friends and gained friends in the space of like a year.
Oh yeah.
And I can really resonate with that. I mean, I don't speak to many of my friends that I went to school with, and I think that should but all of my friends that I met at university, and there's so much more me. And they're my friends now, and like they've been friends with them for like 10 years. But I remember feeling kind of like there was something wrong with me because I didn't keep all of my school friends. And you see all these people that have like got all their friends from school, like this huge group of school friends, and I didn't have that. And I was thinking, oh, maybe I'm the problem. But then I met these people at university and they were so much more my people. And then, you know, we've been friends for years now, but it was really hard for me to kind of let go of those friendships, if that makes sense. But I think it's also been so necessary for me to grow as a person.
So my thoughts, I really do truly believe that everyone has to go through a mass friendship exodus at some point in their life. You cannot keep every single friend you have ever had, otherwise it would make you a really bad friend. Like, you have to think about it that way. If you had every single friend you've ever met, you would be a really bad friend because you wouldn't have time for all of them. You couldn't emotionally invest in their lives the way that you need to with close friends. I'm saying that as someone who actually, I only have one friend from high school, from school. Like,
Me too.
yeah, and you know what? She's amazing.
And she's the best ever. And she's like my sister and I love her so much.
Same. Literally my parents, like, she goes to like my house for like family birthdays when I'm not even there, and like family holidays and whatnot. I just think that it's okay. You have to release the guilt of your friendships naturally changing, because that is a requirement for you to grow as a person. I know the famous quote is like a season, a reason, and a lifetime. Yeah. And the older you get, the more you realize that that's true. Sometimes someone is just like not meant to be with you forever. The same way a relationship, like a romantic relationship, isn't always meant to last. And that's actually a good thing. It's a good thing for both of you if you can take what you needed and move on. Now, that's not to say like friendships, there aren't friendships that are worth fighting for. There definitely are. And you'll notice the ones that are, because you won't speak to them for a while and you'll be like, I really miss them.
Feel lost or empty in some way.
Yeah. But also, I think it's about, I talk about this in my book, about the different friendship, what I call like the friendship galaxy. So the friendship galaxy has 4 rings. The inner ring is like the friends that you are never going to let go. Like, they are family. You could have any kind of fight and it would never ruin them. You've known them for so long, like your high school friend, like my high school friend, and then like your best friends, like your best friends. Then you have like the outer circle, which is people you're really close to right now, you're really getting along with, you love. They could move into the inner circle, but they could also fade away. Time will tell. Then you have circle 3, and that's people who maybe you used to be quite close with, but you're not super close with anymore. People who are kind of coming into that closer second circle. And then you have people who you just don't keep in touch with, or people who are strangers. People move in between those circles of your galaxy quite often. And as long as you have a very stable inner circle, or you have a couple of people in the middle circle and the second circle, you're going to be okay. But it's okay for things to shift and to move. And just because someone has exited the inner circle for a while doesn't mean they can't come back in. Like, you have to release the guilt around your friendship changing, because it's totally normal.
Yeah, and I think as well it's actually shows that you're growing as a person if you're... Some people leave, because if you've had the same people your entire life, not that it's always a bad thing, but like if you had the same friends your whole life, then how can you evolve as a person? Because it's just the same people.
People don't always develop in parallel. That's something I've realized, and that's okay. Like, your values change, your interests change, your location changes.
And that's just so normal.
Yeah.
Like, it's normal to change as a person.
And again, if you kept think about every single person you've ever been friends with.
Wow.
It would be, there's this famous thing called Dunbar's number. I don't know if you've heard about this.
No.
Robin Dunbar is a very famous psychologist / researcher. And he talks about how the average person can only have 250 connections. Now, that sounds like a lot.
To be honest, that sounds like a lot.
Yes, but think about family. Think about your aunts and your uncles and your cousins. Think about your colleagues.
Even friends of friends are still connections, right?
Yeah. But like, even just like friends, like, you can't have more than 250. And so that's like, you have to be quite selective. And actually, within that 250...
Who are you making time for? Like,
well, they said 5. The best number of friends, 5 close friends. That's like people's perfect number for people they can really invest in and be close to and feel supported by. And I always do this, like, periodically I'll be like 5, and I'll just be like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'll be like, oh, there's people who could kind of maybe be 6 or 7, but they're not an immediate
5.
Yeah. Like, and it's just, that's the kind of the way that it is.
So you spoke about your book, which we haven't spoke about yet. And that's nice to coming towards the end of the podcast. And I really wanted to talk about your book. So, Person in Progress.
Yeah, a roadmap to the psychology of your 20s.
Why Person in Progress?
So I actually didn't choose the name.
You didn't?
No.
But I love it. It's so good.
Someone actually suggested it to me, like my editor, and I was like, all right. And I was kind of not sold on it. And then I was like, actually, the more I wrote the book, the more I was like...
It makes so much sense.
I was like, oh, that's a good title. Someone told me it was millennial the other day, millennial cringe. And I like,
Really?
yeah, I lent
Oh,
into
okay.
it. I was like, that's funny.
I'm millennial cringe.
She's like, yeah, that's a millennial cringe name. And I was like, you know what? I love it.
Yeah.
But I actually think it's basically being like, when you're in your 20s, everything about your life should feel like it's progressing towards the next chapter. Like, things that are stable are always up for change. There's so much that we want to improve and that we're developing towards, and so many challenges. It's this real chapter of progress and change and evolution. And I wanted to really like make this extension of the podcast where we do some of the things we've talked about before, some things we've never spoken about before, across 4 like big main sections around what it means to be finding yourself in your 20s and the things you might be struggling with, whether it's relationships, your career, finding your calling, deciding to take big risks, deciding how to navigate a complex family, all these different things, deciding how to navigate money, and like, what's the psychology you need to know about what's influencing your decision making.
And how long did it take you to write this book?
It took me 4 months. I was quick with it.
4 months?
I was like,
Gemma, that is crazy.
I committed. I was like, it just like poured out of me. I was just like, I just remember I started writing it when I got back from Japan, and it was just like, it would just fly out of me. I was doing like 2 chapters a week, just being like, oh my God, and this and this and this. And I didn't write it like from start to finish because there's like, how many chapters are there? Let me quickly do the math. 4, 9, 14, 20. There's like 20 chapters. And so I just chose 21 chapters, like chose the ones that I felt really like called to me in the moment.
And how do you think listeners can get readers and listeners, maybe both, can get the most out of the book?
I think you should read it cover to cover if you feel called to do so. I think that most people could read it cover to cover. Like, even if you have found your dream job, you should still read it cover to cover. Even if you are in a stable relationship, you can still learn from it.
Yeah.
But honestly, you could also selectively choose chapters that resonate with you. I think there's like something for everyone. Like, there is not a single 20-something-year-old or even 30-something-year-old I know who has it all together.
Yeah.
So even if you believe that, I feel like there's something in there for you to learn about how to make better choices, how to appreciate mistakes, how to deal with imposter syndrome, how to deal with loneliness, your mental health. Like, and there's just so much research in it as well, which I'm really proud of. Like, I wasn't just going to make claims, you know what I mean? And be like, this is why you feel this way. It's like, no, here is the evidence. Here is the theories. Here is the research papers. Like, here are the studies. So you feel informed.
And what do you hope that readers will feel like or get out of it after they've read the book?
I hope that people will finish it and feel so comforted by it that they actually get to just do what they want.
Yes.
I want people to finish the book and be like, okay, great. I feel okay with making the decisions that feel best for me.
Yeah.
And I'm allowing myself to let go of some of the pressure. That's really what I want them to.
And do you think that that's the most common issue that, based on your podcast and people that reach out to you, that most people in their 20s are facing?
Yes. I think every single one of us is facing the sense of, how do I trust the decisions that I want to make? How do I trust the process of my life? How do I trust my timing? Think about anything, like whether you're dealing with money, whether you're dealing with situationships, love, relationships, friendships, career, like anything you're dealing with, a quarter life crisis. I think it all comes down to, how can I trust myself in this moment, and how can I trust that it's going to work out and be able to move on from there?
How do you think we can trust?
By reading the book. No.
Read the book.
I think by just being like, okay, I'm capable of anything that gets thrown at me, even the worst case scenario. You're so much more capable than you know. And also by just being a little bit more informed around why your brain responds to things the way it does.
Yeah.
And to not be scared of that.
And I think, so I was listening to a podcast recently and it was talking about just the happiest that you will ever be in your life is when you're just being unapologetically you. And just living your life authentically to who you want to be, not what society tells you to be. And I think that's why your book's so special, because it's about going through that journey of just trusting your instinct, finding your purpose and doing what you want to do for you. And that's, I think, where true happiness lies.
100%. Such a beautiful sentiment to finish the podcast on, because it's true. Like, that's why people over the age of 60 are sometimes the happiest people, other than children, because they're just like, fuck it.
Yeah.
They're just like, I don't care. I'm going to do whatever I want. And they're like, great, I'm going to eat figs. And I'm going to
eat as much birthday cake as possible.
Yeah, and then end up with the ambulance at my house. Literally. How funny is that story? He's such a crack up.
So one final question then, as always, if you could give one piece of advice to somebody listening in their 20s, what would it be?
Do you know that's my final question? Did you know that? Of course you did. Like when I have guests, I always ask them that same question.
No, I actually didn't.
Oh my God, that's
well,
so
I mean,
special.
I must have done, but my last question is always around advice, and obviously
know,
this is very
yeah.
specific to your
I
podcast.
love that. That's crazy because I ask people that all the time and I've never had to answer it. I'm in the hot seat. My best piece of advice to people in their 20s is to try anything you think you might be interested in, even if it is not going to make even if it's not going to make you money, even if you think people will disapprove, even if you're not sure where it's going to lead you, just give it a go. Like you with your Pilates, me with the podcast, you have no clue and you're not meant to know until it happens. So make as many mistakes, try as many things. Don't like box yourself in too young.
Thank you.
You're
That's
so
amazing.
welcome.
Thank you so much, Gemma, for being on the podcast.
I just enjoyed having a chat.
This has been so good. I wasn't actually like what I expected, but it's just been just all around different things, and it was so natural. And
I hope you still liked it though.
I loved it. I'm so grateful for you being on the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Oh, that was so good, Gemma. Thank you.